Hi everyone. I said I was going to do another video on the back of my one from yesterday. So I thought, being June, and June is Men's Mental Health Month, so I thought I'd do something, just say a few words, and just a personal experience of mine through my years in the job. We tend to mask a lot of things as men, you know, the not wanting to say anything to anyone, you know, that whole masculinity nonsense. You know, men don't feel like they can talk to anybody because it's not the men, you know, it's not the macho thing to do. But I would say bollocks to that. If anyone ever says to you, "Oh, take a man up pill," or "Do you want a fucking plaster for that?" you know, stupid wank comments like that, them sort of people just need a kick up the arse, because they clearly haven't experienced whatever it is that you're going through, whatever it is that you're experiencing. Fuck me, it's hot in here. I'm sitting in my van, of all places. I've got the door open and everything, and I'm still sweating my arse off. So yeah, I mean, you know, I've lost a couple of colleagues along the way in my career, you know, through suicide. Everything seems okay on the outside, but in reality, on the inside, you ain't got a clue what's going on inside that person's head. You know, my wife and I, we talk about it sometimes, you know, and she says, "Oh, you know, suicide's a very selfish thing." And for someone to, you know, she obviously doesn't deal with it. She, you know, she has got no connection to the job apart from me. She doesn't work for the police, doesn't work in the NHS or anything like that. So she hasn't really got a clue. She hasn't experienced it personally, neither. It's not, for me, I don't believe it's a selfish thing. That the person that's taken their own life, obviously, you know, if you're jumping in front of trains, that sort of stuff, there is someone else involved, you know, the train driver, or, you know, whoever it might be. That person's never going to be able to forget what happened. Whereas the person who's committing the act, obviously, you know, they're going to achieve what they set out to do, and that is the only thing that they feel that they can do. There is no other alternative. For them, there is no option. Nothing's going to work. Their mindset is, there is no other option for me but to take my own life. So yeah, you know, we have that discussion. But yeah, my experience, not of suicide, personally, obviously, as I wouldn't be sitting here talking, or I've never really thought about doing it. I suffered from PTSD for well over 10 years, until things came on top of me, and that was as the result of a car crash I had at work when I was on a call going to an urgent assistance. My mate on the other end of the radio fighting for his life. I'm going to the call. I've had to go on the wrong side of the road to overtake sort of stationary traffic, and someone in that set of traffic pulled out in front of me, not indicating, not positioned in the road or anything like that. He even said that he didn't see me because he didn't look, and he didn't hear me because his radio was on too loud. So yeah, and as a result of that crash, I hit him. We bounced, well, we were pushed away off of his vehicle, and I ran someone over crossing the road, and that was really nasty. I thought I'd killed him. He had life-changing injuries, without a doubt. He had brain hemorrhage, obviously serious impact injuries. He came through the windscreen, or his head came through the windscreen, and his legs were broken, halfway sort of up his thigh, and bent up his back, and all sorts of shit. So yeah, I mean, I've experienced that sort of thing firsthand, and that's fucked me up quite badly. There are triggers. I have triggers at the minute, you know, still. Certain things trigger it, flashbacks and whatnot. But I have to acknowledge, I had counselling that didn't really work. I had cognitive behavioural therapy, and that works to a certain degree, but it wasn't getting to the root cause of my your brain won't, sometimes, you know, in traumatic events, it will take certain things and hide it, and it won't let you process it. It's very weird how the brain works. Now, EMDR therapy is eye movement desensitization realization. It helps your brain bring forward those thoughts so you can actually acknowledge them, process them, and deal with them. And that was very good for me. I thought that worked really well. You have to excuse me, sorry. I'm sweating. Yeah, so that was quite a nasty one for me. So I would urge anyone out there, anyone that's dealing with stuff, don't bottle it up, don't hide it. Talk to someone. You know, it's a lot more recognised now. You know, there are still people that'll be cunts about it and say, oh, you know, you can't, you know, you get a grip, deal with it, you know, that sort of stuff. And the police, we have a very, very dark sense of humour. We'll go to something nasty and then come away from it, and you know, we'll be laughing and joking, and it won't be laughing and joking about what we've dealt with. You know, there'll be jokes about something else that's gone on during the day or whatever. You know, because you got to take your mind off of it somehow. You know, I remember years ago, first on scene to a 15-year-old boy who'd hung himself in the woods because of his GCSEs. GCSEs of all things, the pressure of his GCSEs. You know, he ran off. He was like, that's it, I've had enough, I can't deal with the pressure. He ran off and hung himself in the woods, and we found him, had to get him down, and we had to do CPR on a 15-year-old boy. And he didn't make it, you know. And that was horrendous, that one. I went to a young girl. I know this is Mental Health for Men's Month, but you know, I want to talk about it. 21-year-old girl hung herself over her bedroom door. She put a piece of rope over the bedroom door, tied it to the handle, and then hung herself from that. And her 12-year-old, I think it was her 12-year-old cousin, found her. Yeah, I was first on scene to that one. We had to cut her down and CPR, and it was quite obvious that she was dead. But we had to until the ambulance crew turned up and took over, you know, and then they called it. But 21 years old, and she left a long letter as to why. And she was one of these genuine ones calling for help, you know, and not getting it. You know, being turned away time and time again by the NHS. No, you know, you're gonna have to wait, etc., etc. And she couldn't take it no more. She couldn't take it no more, and she ended up taking her own life. And she was 21. Again, there's something else I'll never forget. I remember my very, very, very first one as a probationer, joining. Got called. This was like with night duty. I can see this woman phoned up and says, I can see someone in their front room laying on the floor, not moving. So we go there and look through the front room window. And lo and behold, there's this body. Can't really make much out because then there was no lights on and it was dark. So we had to break in, and there was flies everywhere. So you knew he'd been there for a while. And we called CRD. They turn up, and because at the time he had bangles on, but it looked like he'd been tied up. So that became a crime scene. But he left the letter. Again, you know, can't take it no more. Don't know what to do. Don't know where to go. Family, stuff like that. I got left on my own. And I was like 20, 21. Left on my own. Standing outside this house with this body inside, you know, and I was shitting my pants. Yeah. But I think my that was my first one. Actually, no, tell a lie, that was my second one. My very, very first one, which probably impacted me the most as a youngster. And I was 19 at this time. was a young girl had been murdered in Cholton, and it was the boyfriend, and he'd basically dug a hole in the garden at the back, and this was, I think it backed onto the A2, like a road, the A2 in London. And I always remember going down to being shown to the scene, and all I can remember was just his hand sticking out of the ground and the smell. And that affected me, and it probably at 19, you know, didn't really, no one at the time said, oh, you know, is everything all right? Do you need to talk about anything? Or, you know, no one sat you down and at that time and did a debrief. You know, so yeah, over the years I've dealt with some pretty manky things, and things that you don't get in an everyday sort of job. You know, even in the NHS, fire brigade, ambulance crew, obviously ambulances, you know, they turn up to these sorts of things all the time. With us, you know, a lot of the time they're there to, you know, they have to, you know, pronounce life extinct and what have you. But yeah, you know, things like that can affect you. But yeah, going back to sort of the suicide stuff and men's mental health within the job, there's so many things, and it doesn't have to be job related. Sometimes it could be things that are outside of the job that are affecting you, even when you're at work. You know, so please don't just sit in silence. You don't have to, you know, don't suffer in silence. Reach out to people. There are, you know, you can do it anonymously. You know, obviously there's Samaritans and things like that you can reach out to. You just don't suffer alone. That's all I'm going to say, really, because it's one of the worst things in the world to have, you know, sort of the weight of the world on your shoulders and not being able to talk to anyone about it, or you think you can't talk to anyone about it. Just reach out. That's all you need to do. Anyway, I'll leave that there. So I only wanted to do this quick one as it's Men's Mental Health Month, and I thought I'd just sort of, you know, I needed to do something on it, and you know, a couple of experiences of my own and how it affected me. But anyway, right, I shall see you on the next one. If anyone's got any ideas as to what they want me to talk about, any stories that you've heard, anything that I can research, stuff like that, let us know. I'm sitting in my van sweating my arse off. Stupid, really, I suppose, but I've got nowhere else to do it. Anyway, right, take care, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, look after yourselves.